Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for taking time to join us this morning for our HR webinar on self-care practices for HR teams and leaders. Um, we have 87 people in the room this morning. Thank you. Right before we go into lunch, we want to talk to you about practical tips and strategies for you all to do while trying to cope and take care of your organization as well as yourselves. So before we get into that, let us introduce ourselves first. This webinar is hosted by Infinit Care. We are a mental health care company for your workforce. So to talk more about this, I'd like to turn the floor over to Infinite Care's General Manager, Anne Ordonia.
Thanks, Paula. Good morning, everybody, and we're very happy to have you here. So, Infinite Care is indeed your partner in delivering quality mental health care for your workforce. Since we started Infinite Care in early 2020, we have now partnered with over 40 companies serving more than 75,000 members, supporting them in their mental well-being. The reason that we have started Infinite Care is because we've seen that the mental health crisis is rising. Health issues are on the rise, especially among the working population, and it's severely affecting overall health and productivity. So I'd like to do a quick survey in the chat. Maybe you can type, if you're working from home, you just say WFH, working from home. And I'm sure that's already affecting your health and productivity. Also many. Okay. So what we've learned, no, mental illness is really a big issue in the Philippines. It's actually the third most common disability in our country. And the National Center for Mental Health has actually seen a meteoric rise in increase in calling for support because they're going through depression since the lockdowns. The thing is, even with this big number, less than half, in fact, the number is between 2 to 17%. Less than half, even less than 20% are asking for help, or they don't report it unless it becomes really severe. So it's really important that we talk about it and normalize it, right? Next slide, please. So I'm happy that a lot of you have joined us today. This webinar is specifically for human resource and people development specialists, and we all know that we need to act now. There's the impact on work. Mental health issues have led to an increase in absenteeism, meaning people just don't find it in themselves to show up at work because they're going through something, and it has reduced really productivity. And absenteeism can cost 100,000 pesos per employee per year if not addressed. And we also see that it's necessary for engagement. In fact, a lot of employees are urging their managers, urging their leaders, urging their HR to, can we get some form of support? And HR has responded because, there's legislation that supports this too. The mental health care law was passed a few years ago, and the Department of Labor also issued a memorandum last year compelling companies to enact a mental health policy and program and really provide adequate mental health support to their employees. The thing is, even if we all know that this is a big problem in organizations, the spending on mental health care is not enough. It's not even a fraction of how much we put in training, employee engagement, payment to government contributions, insurance. But the good news is, if we spend even just $1 on this, there's a return of $4 on productivity. So really, it's urgent, it's important, and we need to do something about it. Now, not everybody needs the same type of help, right? If you look at this slide, it talks about the mental health continuum. And people can move from, excelling and thriving to in crisis. And I'm sure you can relate, like me myself, I'm typically a very upbeat, positive person, and I have a strong can-do attitude. But in the past 16 months, I found myself struggling and even in crisis, right? So there are instances in our lives where we will move from one part of the continuum to the other. Now, in terms of how companies can support their organizations, we need different solutions to nudge them towards the left side of the scale, going back to thriving and excelling. And where you are in the continuum, you would need different types of solutions as the ones below. Next. So where Infinit Care comes in, we partner with HR, we partner with employers to provide a comprehensive platform for mental health support. We do this in three ways. The first is we interact with employees and provide them the full range of mental health services. This would include checking in, tracking your moods, making sure that you know what were your causes of stress. We provide tools, resources for you to do some self-support. We provide a helpline for you to reach out if you have any concerns, counseling with our licensed psychologist network. We also work with human resources in designing the appropriate programs and using the data to actually see which areas need to be addressed. No, and lastly, we work with the providers, the network of psychologists and counselors in delivering their treatment, delivering their counseling, delivering their support to the individuals. All of this, at the heart of it, is we use data to drive better outcomes for your workforce and your organization. All right. Next slide. So really, Infinit Care is here to help everybody when it comes to managing their mental health, and we have different tools where we can provide different kinds of care at different times. So we're here really to provide support and help you build a resilient workforce. Okay. So for now, let's go to the topic for today. Today, we will be talking about those who are in the front lines in the workforce, human resources, right? And Pao, if you can go back. Yeah, okay. And there's no one in our network who knows more about what HR is going through than Miss Fabi Cariño, who's here to be our main speaker for today. So Miss Fabi is a people development specialist, a multi-awarded HR and training professional at that. We are very blessed to be working with her here at Infinit Care. She is a top-notch HR thought leader, a soft skills speaker with a mission to make an impact in people's lives and careers. She's conducted countless talks, and people have really received so much wisdom and insight from her. She has worked with several local and multinational companies, received several distinct recognitions like Philippines Top Training and Development Professional, Asia Pacific's Most Innovative Training and Development Leader, and Top 50 Global HR Tech Award. Fabi has studied the Master's in Organizational Development from De La Salle University and a Bachelor of Science in Clinical Psychology. She's also a certified master practitioner, coach, and speaker on neuro-linguistic programming obtained in the UK. So currently, Fabi is the country HR director of a leading digital and creative agency, Dentsu International. So without further ado, let me now have Fabi on our virtual floor. Fabi, good morning, and thanks for accepting our invitation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome all our participants. Wow, I'm looking at the participants as they came in. Initially, there were around 60, and now I have 116, and that's really a great number. Thank you for having the time to put 1 hour of your whole week all about self-care. This hour is for you. Okay, so I am an HR practitioner. I've been in the industry for such a long time, coming from learning and development. And then I moved to the whole general practitioner um, facet of HR. And you know what? I said to myself, grabe pala maging HR. Hindi biro. Long before that, I was just focused on learning and development. But now that I moved to HR, then I realized that this work is not just a job. It's really a calling. It's really a tough role for us. Do you guys agree? Can you say agree if you say this is a tough job? Yes, I see already the agree, right? But the people don't understand that, right? People think that we are superwoman. I'm always called that name, but little do they know that every day is really a challenging and a tough job for us. So this hour is really for you. We've designed this program to make sure that you learn something out of the other things that you are currently probably doing already. So let me start off by asking how you are first. If you have a phone, please bring that out, and then we could probably scan the QR code here, just so to see how are you today, and write probably how you feel, and participate in our short Mentimeter. You can either use the QR code there, or you could use also the number at 61765172 if you go to the website of Mentimeter. Let's just see how you guys are, and while Paul will look into the answers that we will be getting. Greetings. Yes. Thank you again for joining, everyone. Okay, so how are you feeling today? Today, I probably feel excited. I was telling Pau and Anna that I'm so excited to be here. So tired, overwhelmed, stressed, worried. Okay. Some people feel awesome. Thank you for sharing and being transparent and showing your vulnerability. Okay. I just want to tell you, we are in a safe place. We are all HR practitioners. If you're an HR practitioner but you're here, then you will hear from us, and you will also hear. And also, I can relate to a lot of your emotions here. Some people feel swamped, tired, excited, hopeful, lack of sleep. I feel fabulous coming from my name. Thank you for that. I'm worried. Okay. So these are all your sentiments, and I feel you guys. I may not be on the same level as your emotions, but these emotions are valid. So it's okay to share them. We'll just give a few more seconds for you to type in and participate. But I see huge words in the word cloud, such as tired, excited, blessed, exhausted. If you're not able to join us on the Mentimeter, you could probably join on the chat and write down how you feel there. If you're not able to get your phone, or your phone is filled with a lot of messages and you don't want to see it, just like sometimes I would turn it off, you can put it on the chat how you feel. And maybe Anna, you could like read anything that you
Yeah,
see.
there's
Okay.
blessed, there's fine, stressed, chill. Gusto ko yung chill. How to be
Gusto ko
chill.
yan, how to be chill. Ako din. Ang alam ko lang sa chill yung music ko, yung chill house, pressure.
Grateful, pressured, mixed emotions.
Wow, okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you guys for sharing those emotions, those vulnerability, and there is no shame in sharing those. I share the same sentiments. My team is also here. I'd like to acknowledge them for supporting me and also trying to learn from me again today. I'm a mental health advocate. I have a clinical psychology background, but I went to HR. My former dream was to become a doctor in psychiatry, but I ended up with more crazy people when you enter the corporate world. Don't you agree? There are more needs in the corporate world. compared to when I was doing my clinical psych in an institution during, see, they agree. There are more crazy people like us. We are also crazy. It takes one to know one. And I would say crazy in a good way. No, I don't think we are encountering a lot of crazy people depending on how you actually define it. Right? So let's move on. I'd like to tell you a lot of studies have shown that 71% of HR leaders, which were surveyed globally and really huge organizations, say that 2020 was the most stressful year for HR. Please raise your hand if you agree to this or say agree, because I myself felt that 2020 was the most difficult, challenging, fulfilling though year for me because of the pandemic, right? Before the pandemic, alam ko, stress na tayo. Stress na tayo. I could give you examples of my stress that probably can you relate to. Halimbawa, may nag-resign today. Ma'am, nag-resign po si Mr. Juan today. Can you please give me a replacement tomorrow? Or ASAP, di ba? Mga ganyan, sino ba yung mga recruitment natin dyan? Okay? Tapos, ano pa ba mga stress natin na nararamdaman that I know of? Or, ma'am, may magre-resign na naman bukas. Last week, nag-resign na po ang 10 tao natin. Diba? Can you relate to that? Nag-resign na, tapos kasalanan pa natin. Bakit daw umalis yung tao? Kasi daw mababaw ang pasweldo natin. You know what, guys? I can relate to that. I'm glad I see a lot of I see a lot of reactions there that you can relate to it, because I've been in a situation where palis ng tao, and of course when people say I'm leaving because I have a higher salary in a different company, I have to tell you guys that's not our fault. All right? Everyone who leaves a company will always look for a higher salary in another company. That's economics. And you realize people will always say, I'm moving because of a higher salary. That's a given. Meron ba kayo narinig, I'm moving to a different company kasi mas lower yung salary? It's economics. So that is not the reason why people leave. You know for a fact that people leave because of certain situation. We know that people leave either they don't like the culture, or they want to grow in a company, or there it would be different opportunities elsewhere. But based on studies, I can tell you people leave because of their boss. That's been proven all throughout these years that people really leave when they do not feel valued, when they feel that they are not being acknowledged of what they do, and maybe because of toxicity. I agree to that also when there is a toxic culture within the organization. So hindi yan kasalanan ng HR. Okay? So please do not put any blame on yourself, and do not listen to people telling you that it is your fault why people are leaving the company. Alisin nyo yan sa utak nyo. Hindi nyo po kasalanan yan. Alam ko, a lot of us goes through those incidences when we could be the cause of everything, 'di ba? And I was even joking to my team, ano ba 'yan? Kasalanan ba natin ba lahat, no? But I just want to tell you, please do not listen to this kind of reaction when we have those resignations. Right. Because the main reason why people leave would be it's really their managers. Now, look at this. What is our role in HR? Ang dami nating roles, no? Can we go back to the other slide first before we move to the HR stressor? Our role is we have to connect to the workforce, and we have to keep up with the workforce culture. Imagine, kailangan nating kumuha ng bagong tao, kailangan masaya lahat sila, and kailangan din yung mga tao natin at managers natin, ibibigay lahat natin ang kailangan nila on a daily basis. They do not know we're all working from home, especially for those working at home. I think we are undervalued of what we call contribute, because what probably they will see is our update na one-liner. Update of hiring 30 people for the month of July. That's just one line, but people do not know that it took 1,000 processes and steps to get 30 people to join our organization. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but this is how I view it. I feel that, and I was telling this directly to my boss, that no one has the right to judge us with the way we contribute, because we know for a fact that we even work beyond the hours. We even work even before the hours that we're supposed to be logging in. I am guilty of that, and I set the wrong example to my team that as early as 5:30 or 6 o'clock, because I'm an early riser and an early sleeper, I wake up and I start emailing. It's because it's a wrong choice of mine to start working. Well, guys, I have to remind you, tama na yan. Oo, minsan doktor ang tingin nila sa atin, di ba? Sabi ko nga, napaka-urgent ba na kailangan kong kumuha ng tao mo agad-agad? Hindi ba kaya yan umalis yan dahil sa inyo? So these are sometimes my fierce moments or fierce moods when I really put them in a mirror and tell them, excuse me guys, before you even ask us for help, let's take a look at what are your retention strategies to keep your people, because we're not faucets, or we're not like providing water all the time that we could get people right away. Alam nyo yan, 'di ba? We have so many openings, but ang dami-daming ang dami-dami rin nag-a-apply, pero ang hirap makakuha ng swak, right? So let's move on. I'd like to show to you the 10 stressors of HR. Okay? How can we move there to the next slide? I don't think I see the next slide, Pao. So while she is pulling out the next slide, I actually enumerated the 10 tough stressors of HR. And maybe kung wala dyan yung mga stressor ninyo, you can share with me later on. Ano ba yung mga other stressors natin that we encounter? Hindi po ba? In terms of accountability, as I've mentioned, we are accountable pretty much from everything. From the, let's say if you're HR admin, you're responsible as buying face mask for our people. I also encountered those small accountabilities, but generally we have to be responsible for taking care of those things, such as buying face masks, alcohol, making sure that our tests are also available, especially during this pandemic. That's one, accountability. Next, objectivity. How could you put objectivity when you are letting go of people? How could you be objective in speaking to these people? This is another stressor. Hindi po ba? If you're responsible for employee relations, then objectivity is another stressor of ours. Or if you have built relationship with your team members and you're being asked to let go of some of your team members, that could be very challenging also. Another is, araw-araw yan, disgruntled employees, always complaining about simple things such as HR, ang bagal ninyo, HR, hindi kayo nagre-respond, HR, you are not providing me the people that I need. I already need these people and we are putting in money to the business. We are the cost center and tayo ay cost center rather, and sila yung revenue center. Diba? They always see HR perhaps as that. So we have disgruntled employees probably complaining about their salary, or tayo mismo, yeah, rude employees, diba? I encounter that a lot, especially so that I'm already part of the X generation where I expect people to give me respect even if they're asking for help. Notice that sometimes when people are so frustrated or desperate, that the tone of their voice comes out to be aggressive. Sila na nga yung may kailangan, sila pa yung galit. Yan yung sinasabi ko rin na kayo na nga yung may kailangan, kayo pa yung galit. And I always say that even for as early as siguro yung mga recruits namin, I see that, I really pinpoint that, and I really tell them, we do not tolerate people who cannot give us mutual respect. But you also have to understand and empathize a bit that people who are uh, who can be rude to us could be going through something, right? So, ang hirap ng hack natin because we have to be objective. We have to make sure that we listen to these disgruntled employees who could tend to be even rude, all right? Next one is crisis management, no? This pandemic is really crisis. If you listen to people's needs that their whole family is already positive at home. I just got a message, for example, I heard from one of our employees that the whole family is already positive. Sinong hindi magkakaroon ng nervyos niyan? Because if this person particularly went even to the office a week before, then how do you manage this crisis? Or crisis, halimbawa na naabutan nyo ba may mga earthquake or fire sa mismong building ninyo? Kayo pa din, yan, HR pa rin ang tatakbuhan ng lahat. I was the last one to leave the building one time when we had we had an earthquake. There was even one time I was with ABS and I was with the CEO Charo Santos at the time, and then nag-shake. And I'm from Baguio. I saw the worst earthquake in 1990s. I was still a student back then, and talagang every time that happens, even if you're the HR, sasabihin nilang you're the last one to leave, sometimes I would rather save myself, no? But I know most of you would not do that. And we would even stay until everyone has left. Tayo din in charge niyan. Crisis management. Ano ibig sabihin ng transitional glue? Transitional glue means when our company is going through reorganization or mergers, we are in charge of making sure that whatever changes happen, our team feels that they belong to the company. And lalo na nowadays that we're all working from home, ang nangyayari dyan is that instead of building relationship na sanay tayo as Filipinos na nagkikita araw-araw sa office, we eat together, we have lunch together, or tatakas tayo sa office for a few hours to go. Lalo na kami, malapit lang kami sa Greenbelt, and some of our employees would naturally have overtime and enjoy first their long hour of dinner. These are part of our Filipino culture which has worked, no? But right now, when we say as HR, how do we make sure our people are happy, and how do we even think that people are feeling of that belongingness if they are new to the company, or we have just merged two organizations together, or how could we build harmonious relationship between, let's say, our employees, lalo na pag may mga complaints sa mga tao natin if you're working in a factory or manufacturing business model. Then we are also in charge of a lot of private information, from salary, which is the most important aspect na kailangan tayo lang nakakaalam niyan. And we have to hold on to the privacy of this information. And sometimes we are even pressured to provide what is the range or salary range of these people, when in fact we have to ensure the integrity of these documents and information. Pandemic needs issues and needs. As I've mentioned, ang dami niyan, from the physical needs to the mental needs of our people. Diba? This is the more pressing pandemic that we are facing. And then another, demands on training development, kasi kailangan mag-cross-train tayo para we can retain more people. And people, if you are not if you are a generalist and you don't have a training and development team, there is always a clamor as to how we would provide training and development and succession planning or career ladder for our people. That's another stressor. How do you ensure that your people have somewhere to go after 2 years or 3 years? Like, if you yourself don't even have a career ladder, how could you even provide that for your employees? Another is the 24/7 availability expectation. People could actually go through our boundaries and say to us, okay, you have to give me that document by 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, or until evening. So these are what we call HR stressors. And Anna, do you want to read others that have shared their own HR stressor that were probably not included here? Because I see that there's a wealth of information being shared by our HR practitioners in this call.
Yeah. So some are saying that there are rude employees. Um, we as HR, we also need to motivate ourselves because we may be going through something too. Managers invalidating our tiredness.
Correct? Kasi sila hindi natutulog, so they expect na tayo din hindi rin natutulog. Ako kasi, bisyo ko yan, matulog. That's, pag wala akong 7 hours of sleep, ikaw, Ana, how many hours do you sleep in a day?
High tide or low tide? Ganyan ang question.
At least you're able to rest now, no? Compared to being in full-time corporate that you can be probably not sleeping, not because you're working, but sometimes yung bago ka matulog, iniisip mo na yung gagawin mo for the whole week, for the whole day. And ako nga I was joking around, pwede pang mag-avail of overtime kasi panaginip ko rin kagabi is work. 'Di ba? I'm sure you have those kind of moments that even in our subconscious mind, our mind has already been affected with all these dreams all about work. Kaya dapat nga wag na tayong magkaroon ng ganyang mga dreams sana, no? Sana mga dreams natin masasaya, yung about being with our loved ones, our family, 'di ba? Hindi yung mga dreams na nagwo-work pa tayo. Otherwise, mag-charge tayo ng overtime pay. Okay? So let's move on. All right? So let's define self-care. Okay? What is self-care? So on the Wikipedia, it refers to the action and attitude which contributes to the maintenance of our well-being and personal health and promotion of human development. Diba? Tayo nga yung HR, pero the first human being that you should take care of is you. All right? So remember that. Hindi lang tayo HR ng kumpanya, but you have to be the HR of yourself. We have to take care of our personal health using different actions and attitude, no? So in dictionary, it's care of the self, and other dictionaries would say it's the daily activities that we do to look after ourselves. Very simple, even your food that you eat, the sleep that you get, the water that you take, that's part of self-care. I'm sure you know all this, but I'd like to share to you something that you will value and remember after this program. And something that you must do often, hindi pwedeng one-off lang, di ba? Magsa-self-care ka, I will give you this technique, but you will not do it frequently, then that's not self-care. It's just being curious and trying it out. So that is self-care. It's really the actions and attitudes that you take on a daily basis to promote your well-being and your personal health. Let's move on. So I'd like you to remember one word: breathe. Okay? So very yan common word yan kasi araw-araw ginagawa natin yan. It's an auto system of ours to breathe, and a lot of people are also dying right now because they're not able to breathe. So tatandaan nyo lang yung acronym na breathe. So this is an acronym which will give you the tips on how to do HR self-care. So let's start off with the first one. Letter B stands for actually breathing. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So breathing. So let me just discuss why is it so important to breathe. Just like how essential water and food is, oxygen is such a huge and important factor in our body, right? As I mentioned, COVID-19 has really been able to kill a lot of people because tinatamaan niya yung lungs niya. And that's such a vital organ in our body. Now, when we were born, wala naman tayong stress eh. Ang stress lang natin, we get stressed when we want to drink milk. Diba? That's a Maslow hierarchy of needs. The first thing that we want is food, right? And we would cry when we need milk. But what I would like to tell you is that as we get older and as we probably encounter a lot of challenges in our life, our breathing system has been modified. How do you breathe? Halimbawa, you're walking along the street and you see a truck going after you. Do you breathe in or do you breathe out? Okay? Ana, anong sagot mo dyan? When you're walking down the street, tapos may nakita kang huge truck, and then anong gagawin? No? Will you breathe in or will you breathe out?
Breathe in.
Breathe in. Correct. Kung normal kayo, breathe in kayo dyan. Ha? Kasi breathing in is because, oh my God, what will I do? Should I run? Should I stop? Should I move backwards? Right? Pero naman, if nakita nyo yung super crush nyo na nakikita nyo sa office, kung may crush kayo sa office, or nakita nyo yung mahal nyo sa buhay, or your son or your baby gives you a brilliant smile or gives you something. How do you breathe? Do you breathe in or you breathe out?
Someone said, no breathing.
Breathe. No breathing daw pag ano, no? Kasi you hold nga your breath pag ano, pag natakot ka. Pero, yes, you notice when our autonomic nervous system would be happy, tayo ay nagbe-breathe out. Pero I'll backtrack again. Just imagine that every day of our lives as HR, because of stress and a lot of things that we are balancing from family, and then if you're also just like me, I'm also studying on the side, no? Ang daming stressor ko. So every day, the breathing technique becomes like you're walking across a truck. I mean, walking in between a truck na we're always going to be hit by a truck. Ganun yung feeling. Now we're always holding our breath, or when your boss tells you, halika, usap tayo, or when your CEO tells you, halika, usap tayo. Remember, your breathing gets affected. Kaya nangyayari dyan, most of the time, our shoulders feel painful. You get that? Hindi mo alam, hindi ka naman nagbuhat ng malaki. Wala naman tayong gym ngayon, pero ang sakit ng shoulder natin. Why? It's because most of the time, we are not breathing in correctly. So what happens is, we are actually extending our shoulders in this manner, and what happens is, we are not breathing well. So nagkakaroon tayo ng shortness of breath na hindi mo man lang alam, because nagiging mechanism mo na ang holding your breath, because you're always stressed, you're always nervous, you always have this culture toxicity that you feel. And so what happens is our breathing is so affected. So I would like to show to you a video that talks about how and why breathing is so important before I even give you techniques on how you should breathe properly.
A little bit taller. You're breathing so long.
Do you hear it?
Yes.
Breathing wrong.
Oops, nawala yung ano. Nawala yung sounds.
The sound is gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay, sorry, just a minute.
Cavity. So do this now. Take a deep breath and watch. If you feel like you're going up and getting a little bit taller, and then you come down and settle down on your exhale, that's actually a dysfunctional breath. At 5 and under, I've found that most kids breathe perfectly. So a number of things happen so that when you ask a 10-year-old to breathe, they start breathing with that upper body breath that's actually anatomically incongruous and leads to us being in fight and flight, more anxious, having neck and shoulder pain, not being able to sleep, and having digestive problems. So how did we get there? Number one is that child starts sitting a lot. They start going to school. We sit way too much, 13 to 16 hours a day. Number two is injuries. If you're a little kid and all of a sudden you start skateboarding or skiing, anything that hurts the middle of your body, you immediately stop inhaling and expanding because it hurts. And your breath goes all the way up here to be an upper body or a vertical breath. You start wearing waistbands, bra straps, compression garments. You start sucking in your gut, and all of a sudden that breath that was perfect before you were 5 turns into a dysfunctional one as an adult, and it stays there until you fix it right now. A good breath, a breath that's anatomically congruous, it goes with the rest of your body, is that you inhale and you expand your body. Neck and shoulders don't move. You expand all the way around, 360 degrees. You come forwards a little bit, your sides open up, and even your back opens up. And if you want to see what this looks like, look at your dog, your cat, your fish, any animal on the planet except for us, and you'll see them breathe perfectly, 360 degrees all the way around, expanding on the inhale and contracting, wringing out, getting narrower on the exhale. No neck and shoulder movement.
They're wonderful. Before we move on to the next slide, let me just
Take a deep
summarize
breath.
how
If you
important your breathing is. And I'd like to teach you 3 techniques of fixing your breath. All right. It's called water, whiskey, and coffee. Water is what we could do to use so that we could release our stress. And it's very easy. All you need to do is breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. Okay, so that's very easy, and you can do that for 4 minutes. That's called water. It's just to maintain how we breathe properly. And I'd like to stress, every time you breathe, you need to expand your tummy. You do not breathe using your shoulders and say, but rather breathe and make sure that your tummy is going to expand. Notice how your babies, if you have babies at home, how they breathe. Walang stress yan when they're breathing and sleeping. Nag-expand ang tummy nila. So that's what you need to do. Alam ko, expanded na ang mga tummy natin dahil sa ating mga kinakain. But when I say expand, it forcefully expands. So that's what you call water technique. Another technique is what we call whiskey technique. Bakit whiskey? Di ba ang whiskey, if you're a drinker, sino bang drinker dyan? Sometimes they drink that so that they can fall asleep. Now, whiskey breathing is about having to spend more time in terms of exhaling. So what do you do pag whiskey? Whiskey is breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that, exhale mo is 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So inhale 4 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds. And that is what we call whiskey. And that will relax you and put you to sleep for 20 times that you do it. Now, if you want coffee, you want energy dahil 1 o'clock and you need to have a meeting, napakahirap mag-conduct ng meeting after that, diba? What you can do as an exercise even for your team is to do what we call the coffee breathing technique. And what you do about coffee breathing technique is hindi kayo magbi-breathe in, magbi-breathe out lang kayo using your nose. So, parang you're sneezing. For at least 15 times you do that. So in a way, it wakes you up, it perks you up. So that is what we call water. And then we also have the whiskey, which you can use to fall asleep and to relax. And the other one is coffee. All right. So let's move on to the next one. My next one is a favorite aspect when it comes to neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro-linguistic programming is how to program your mind. And one of the best technique in NLP that I really take away and share to everyone in my talk is what we call reframing. Halimbawa dyan, what do you mean by reframing? Reframing is wearing a different spectacle or glasses to change your current situation. Now, for example, you are facing different kinds of challenges, right? Or different amounts of pressure. you could use creative framing of your mind, such as you could change it the way you look at it in terms of context. What am I going to, what is this useful for? Perhaps if you're going through a feedback session and you really didn't like that kind of feedback session, look at it at the context of why am I getting this feedback and why is this useful for? Next is humor. This is so common among us Filipinos. Minsan, binabaha na ang mga bata dyan halimbawa sa Marikina when I see them that they're still looking at humor because I think they're looking at the framing that they can still play dun sa water na yon. No? I'm not saying that you should do that, but I'm just looking at the humor that they get from it. And then the most important part is reframing it in such a way, asking yourself, what can I learn from this situation? Another is, what is the meaning of this situation? And how does this look to other people? Another is, what opportunities does this problem present? Right? If you look at the problem, what opportunity can you get from it? Or what is the solution that you could get? What will we do to solve the problem? And sabi nga nila, if you cannot manage the situation, then you can only accept the situation and you could reframe, wear a different set of glasses and use the different kinds of reframing. Napakaganda niya. Libre lang yan yung glasses na yan. Hindi mo yan mabibili sa IO. But rather, look at the different ways of looking at the different ways of reframing. And this is already a practice of neurolinguistic programming. That whatever happens to you, whatever challenges you face, you can look at it on a different aspect and you can look at the solution rather than dwelling on the problem or issue. I know how it is because I'm not perfect. Even if I'm a clinical psychologist, sometimes I dwell so much on the problem, lalo na if you have a OCD issue that you want everything perfect. Walang perfect, guys. Hindi tayo perfect. We will commit mistakes. And it's up to us how you lift up yourself. We will encounter challenging people. We will encounter difficult people. But if you want to reframe it, hindi ka na magagalit minsan sa tao. Maaawa ka na lang sa taong rude sa inyo kasi alam mo, either may pinanggagalingan siya, may pinagdadaanan siya, or talagang walang nagmamahal sa kanya. So, yan yung mga joke dyan, no? Baka walang nagmamahal sa kanila. So, look at this. I want you to focus and remember this aspect of my module on reframing your thinking. I'd like to give you an example of reframing briefly. So, cognitive reframing is lahat na naman tayo dito. ECQ na naman. So, a lot of us will complain, my friends and I won't see each other, but rather, if you reframe that, you would say, my friends and I are protecting each other. Tama yan. Ako nga, I don't like to see my friends nowadays because I'd rather be protected and I do not know also, despite being inoculated, that we could still catch COVID. I'm stuck at home. You are safe at home. And one thing I posted on LinkedIn one time, the best thing about working from home, guys, is that we have work and we have a home, right? I have lost all my freedom. I have relinquished my freedom for a noble purpose. Especially our, yung mga frontliners natin na kawawang-kawawa na hindi na nga nakakakuha ng mga ayuda nila or mga benefits nila. Let's not give them any of these problems by starting with our own families to be protected at home. I miss the things I love. I miss traveling a lot. But right now, what this pandemic has taught me is that I'm increasing my gratitude of what I have and what I love right now. Okay, so that is letter R for reframing your thinking. Let's move on. The next one is empathize cognitively. I'm sure a lot of people in this call have very high empathy. You wouldn't be in HR kung wala kang empathy dahil itong trabaho na ito ay talagang ang laki at ang bigat ng kailangan mong dalhin that you need to have that empathy level. So, some of you are even called probably as mommy, 'di ba? Kasi kayo yung type na nurturing kind of HR. Well, iba-iba tayo ng personality. Obviously, I'm not that kind of HR. I do not want to be called mommy because I'm not the nurturing type, no? But I just want to share with you, there's nothing wrong in being empathetic. But it becomes wrong when there's so much compassionate empathy and emotional empathy that we lose ourselves. Do you agree? That sa sobrang awa mo, ibibigay mo pa yung huling subo mo. Diba? So that is not the calling of our job. We have to make sure that we have boundaries and we need to make use of the 3 levels of empathy. There's the cognitive empathy where we have the ability to understand how a person feels and what they might be thinking. Right? And cognitive empathy makes us better communicators, lalo na if we have to let go of people, that because it helps us relay information coming from the mind and coming from an objective state and not coming from an emotional state. Know that a lot of our negative decisions comes from an emotional state. So, if lalo na kayo ay very passionate also, and we always have that emotional empathy, makakita ka lang ng ganyan, umiiyak ka na. No, I also know those kinds of people, yung mga managers natin na instead na sila ang magle-let go ng mga tao nila, di nila kaya kasi sila mismo umiiyak na nun. So, what we call emotional empathy is the ability to share the feelings of another person, right? There's a right situation when you have emotional empathy. All right? And you could actually feel your pain in your heart. Yung alam mo ang sakit-sakit. So, let's be conscious of what to use. And I want you to be able to sustain this kind of role. And if you want to sustainability, you really have to do a lot of cognitive empathy. Marami sa inyo, compassionate empathy. Kunwari, may utang dyan dahil wala silang pamasahe or nagastos na nila yung kanilang salary. Lalo na pag mga millennials, I noticed nung time I was in the business process outsource and we were all face-to-face pa niyan. I was with the BPO for 8 years. Maraming mga umuutang sa ating HR. Alam nyo yan. Diba? Hindi lang tayo counselor, financier din tayo. Na wala na nga tayong sweldong naiipon, ipapautang nyo pa para lang pumasok. Alam ko yan because I have also encountered such instances when they don't have money and you end up giving that money. Is that good? I would say on hindsight, it is not because if you tolerate such kind of attitude, you're empathetic, but you are too compassionate about them, they do not learn their lesson. Right? So I'd like to say that choose cognitive or intellectual empathy. Naaawa ka, pero wag kang masyadong emotional about it. Right? The next one is, we'd like to proceed in the next slide, is we'd like to look at appreciation. And when we say appreciation, hindi lang thank you sa lahat that we have, but we have to have what we call grateful affirmation about ourselves. So, how could you practice appreciation? One is you have to have a gratitude journal. I started with having a gratitude journal using an app, and then I put down 3 things on a daily basis. Kung tinatamad, at least one thing that I am happy or grateful about. Okay? You can speak with appreciation rather than complaining because it's so easy to complain. But note, as HR, we need to ensure that the complaint does not come from us, but the appreciation should come from us, and then help and support for your community. So ang daming affirmation dyan. I am grateful to be alive and live this day. So there's a lot of affirmations that we could actually do the moment we wake up. Remember the reticular activation system in our body. the moment that pagising pa lang tayo and then inaabot na natin ang ating phone or laptop just to work really makes an impact in our mind setting. So please, instead of going to your phone or of course, after brushing your teeth when you wake up, make sure that you activate that reticular activating system by ensuring that you look at affirmations like I am grateful, I am happy, I am beautiful, I am powerful. All of this is part for grateful affirmations. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Next is thinking inward. And thinking inward is finding all your answers from within. I used to be a shopaholic sa Lazada nung unang ano yan, labas ng mga Lazada, no? I was wondering bakit yung mga empleyado namin bili ng bili, deliver sa office, but I never ever tried Lazada. Na yun, nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, I started to buy things for my cycling sports, no? Bili ng bili, hindi ko naman kailangan. And realizing that I have been looking for an outlet for answers. So I'm not saying that should not also what do you call this? Buy the things that you need or to also splurge once in a while. But I'm looking at more on inward thinking, and that's what you do, no? You have to be using the breathing technique on a daily basis, especially the water technique. At least 5 minutes of your time every day will help you go back to your mindset and remove yung fog mental state. Learning to think, removing everything that is negative from your mind. You can start by imagining yung mga negative things, negative words, sickness, itapon mo yan sa basura. And you could use that as a part of your meditation. If not, you could also use apps that could help you to think inward. Let's move on to the next one. Aside from thinking of meditation and thinking inward, as I've said, you can use the Infinit Care app that we have actually already made available for you guys. No, we also want to tell you that you need to harmonize with like-minded people. If you are with negative people, pessimistic people, you are the sixth negative person. And I'm sure baka ikaw pa yung pasimunod dyan. So why do we need to harmonize with like-minded individual? Because they offer us assistance and guidance and advice. They support us unconditionally. They hold us accountable. They speak a common language and they cheer us on. So notice, kailangan mong i-audit ang mga kaibigan mo, mga friends mo sa Facebook. Kung masyadong negative at kung ano nung pinopost dyan, you can unfollow politely that they don't know that you're unfollowing them. I have done that actually when I wanted to audit my friends and I wanted to make sure that I detox my friends also. Kung may detox sa katawan, may detox din sa digital. Okay, so as I've said, you can upload or you can download an app, the Infinit Care, because Infinit Care can also offer you assistance. I've partnered with Infinit Care since last year, and they have helped many of our employees, including myself, when it comes to asking for guidance, whether or not they're going through any mental issues. But the thing is, they could help a lot in terms of guiding you or cheering you on when you're going through low days. Okay. Next one is, the last one is establishing healthy boundaries. I've touched on this a bit, especially so when it comes to empathizing, that we should use intellectual empathy instead of compassionate empathy all the time. So what can you do? Choose boundaries over barriers. Hindi naman ibig sabihin we need to have a barrier for us not to be reachable, but we have to have boundaries with regard to timing, the time of work that we need to start. Kung 9 to 6 yan, then 9 to 6 yan. Figure out how you do best work first. Figure it out how you would plan it first. Make sure you plan it at your own terms and not let others dictate that to you. put yourself in your teammate's shoes also, because not everybody goes through this like if I go on a speed of 50 kilometers per hour, not everyone would be in that speed. So you always have to also empathize that your teammates in HR do not have that same speed, but you also have to encourage them. Next, make agreement in terms of the greater good. And lastly, no, when you want to also establish boundaries, you give based on long-term benefit, not on short-term fears dahil takot ka lang. Okay? Dahil takot ka lang, ito yung gagawin nyo. Tama na yung band-aid mentality of fixing things based on what arises. Let's not be reactive. For you to help yourself and your whole HR team, we have to look at long-term solutions, hindi band-aid mentality. Otherwise, you'll just keep on firefighting every single day, and you don't like that. I also want to say that overall, right, when you look into all these self-care tips, it's all about strategizing how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your team. Let's move on to the next one. I think that's the last of my slide. We've given you 7 essential tips that you could be using in your daily life as an HR practitioner. My last activity. So knowing all these 7 techniques using breathe as a tool for you for self-care as HR, I want you to scan again the QR code in the Mentimeter, or if you're not able to use your phone right now, you can put on the chat box what part of brief will you start applying immediately, or what one lesson would you like to apply immediately. I'm sorry that I'm doing a little bit of overtime. I just got so intense with my discussion. But just one last few minutes. What would you want to apply, and what would you want to implement moving forward based from the brief? Would you like to share using the Mentimeter? Or if not, you could actually put it on the chat. Ano dyan ang pinaka-important lesson for you? Okay, we have reframing my thinking. Good. Breathe. Thinking inward. Okay. Yes, establish healthy boundaries. Harmonize with like-minded. Yes, I'm happy to see that everything seems to be useful for everyone. All right, so the top 3 that I see here is reframing, the breathing technique, the gratefulness is followed by thinking inward. But I'd like to also remind you guys that all of these techniques, at least pick 3 of them and use them to your advantage, right? So I would like to just already close this program before I turn you over back to Anna. Thank you very much, everyone. It is really a pleasure to share my own stories in HR and my tips with regard to how you can take care of yourself. So I hope you learned something, 1 or 2 today. I'll turn this back to you, Anna.
Fabi, that was fabulous. Thank you so much. We do have a few questions if you could stay on.
Sure.
Yeah. So, Fab, you know, for most of these HR folks, they probably have very high compassionate empathy. So, how do you empower yourself if you have that? How do you proceed in helping others?
I think that this is a profession of helping others. Totoo 'yan. Ang HR is human resources at pinaka-difficult 'yan. Unlike ang ating operations or kung financials, they're just looking at numbers tayo, very difficult kasi iba-ibang tao, iba-ibang way of understanding and helping them. For me, I think that my number one tip with you guys, before helping others, help yourself first. Take a look at your vessel. Okay, I'm gonna talk about this later on. Please join me in that next program with Infinite Care about burnout. Guys, hindi tayo dapat magpapasagad at magpapawarak, sabi nga ng term ni
I love
term
it,
ni
warak.
yeah, papawarak tayo. Please lang, alam nyo ba, kahit na we lie down flat for people to step on us, they will even complain. They will say you were not fluffy enough to be walked upon. You were too thin enough to walk upon. So, my number one thing for you guys is start with yourself. Please take care of yourself first before helping other people. Now, if you're ready to help other people, establish your boundaries. Okay? May oras yan. And when people are talking to you, limit it. Hindi pwedeng isang oras kinakausap ka. Okay? Hindi ka psychologist, guys. That's why you need to partner with people who have the time, who have the value add to give advices, to listen, because they have learned all these techniques. And if you are not a psychologist like me and hindi kayo certified, we can only do as much, makikarried away lang tayo at hindi mo problema yan. That is not your problem, guys. So make sure you partner with people. And I did that. I did not know Infinite Care. I was really looking for partner because hindi mo kaya yan. Hindi ko kaya makinig ng problema ng lahat ng tao na namatayan sila, namatayan ng baby and all this. I just want to say, take care of yourself first. It's okay to ask for help. Find a partner to take care of your team, because not all your problems is your problem, guys.
Yeah. Fabi, I'll take on one more question.
Sure.
In establishing boundaries, how do you push back without people thinking that you're inefficient or incompetent?
It really depends on your communication style. Okay, if it comes from me, I'm very brutal and I really say no. But if your communication style is nahihiya kayo, you need to be assertive, guys. You can be assertive, not aggressive. Hindi kayo magsusungit na ayoko nga gawin yan. That's not also called for, because as HR, we always have to be customer service centric, and our customers are our people. How could you say no? You can say no by giving them a different solution, di ba, sa customer service. You can say no, that I'm sorry, I cannot help you, but if I may suggest, that kind of issue can be dealt by your manager or by somebody else, because I'm not the expert on this. You can say no, guys, karapatan nyo yan, and you can tell, but you can also have a different solution and suggest a solution. That's how I do it. I really say, no, that's not my job. No, I can't do it. No, that's not the time that I would like to speak to you. If it's okay, I can talk to you during office hours only. Sorry, medyo I have to teach you guys to be assertive.
Yeah, I love it. That's the right way to go about it. So thanks, Fabi, again. Really enriching session. May demand na for another one. Please watch out for this is a series actually, and we will be making announcements on the next sessions. So thank you again, Fabi. I'll now call back Paula to do the final announcements and to close this webinar.
Yes, thank you so much, Fabi, for sharing your wisdom and your time. Thank you, Anne, also for moderating the discussion. So, like Anne said, this will be a series of webinars or sessions with Fabi. So we hope that you can stay tuned. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as Instagram to know more about the upcoming sessions. And if anything that we've discussed today, whether it's about Infinite Care or finding better support for you and your organization so that you can be properly supported with your mental health, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can find our contact details It's flashed on the screen. It's info@infinitecare.co. And our website's infinitecare.co. So thank you again. I will not keep you any longer. I'm sure everybody is hungry. So thank you for joining us this morning. And yes, have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.